proven technique to help you get out of your own way, help you deal with roadblocks and obstacles and challenges so that you can achieve the goals that you're setting for yourself and setting for your business. And it's a technique that I really, really love. And I love sharing it with people because it's so powerful. So I'm going to give you a brief introduction. We're going to go through some concepts and then we're going to go right into the WOOP part. So WOOP stands for wish, outcome, obstacles, and planning. It is a way of planning for the obstacles so that you can be even more successful than if you simply planned for your goal, which is honestly typically what we do. We think about, this is what I want to do, this is how I'm going to get there. WOOP adds a little bit of a layer in there to say, okay, let's be strategic about this. What happens when we get tripped up? What happens when we trip ourselves up? What are we going to do then, hotshot? Doing this ahead of time really prepares you for that. So before we dive into that, I want to talk about a couple of concepts that are really important to know. And the first one is, well, I'll mention it's mental contrasting. You may or may not have heard this term before. So in order to explain that, I'm going to start with positive thinking, which you probably all have heard about. So positive thinking, you know, you've probably been told throughout your life, just think positive, you know, and you'll get there. Or you might be like me, you might have some mantras that you repeat in your head to help get you to a specific goal. And that's great. Positive thinking it's very feel good. It really can help move us forward, and it can also really get in our way. So it seems so nice, so positive. How can it trip us up? Well, the rest of what we're going to talk about was all studied and discussed by a German psychologist, which Dr. Oettingen. And when she did some studies on positive thinking, she found some really interesting things. The first thing is positive thinking can trick your mind into believing you've already achieved your goal. So if the goal is, I'm going to get 10 new clients, think about if you do like a mantra or something like that, like I'm getting 10 new clients, I'm getting 10 new clients, I'm getting 10 new clients. At some point you convince your brain, I've gotten 10 new clients, that's amazing. And we may not have done the work that we need to actually get there. We may not actually be there yet. The other thing it can do is trick our bodies. So there have been other studies that show when we think about a goal, a wish that we want to achieve, it lowers our blood pressure, and that feels really good. But when we think about not achieving that goal, it raises the blood pressure. So, so positive thinking can lower our blood pressure and make us feel like, hey, everything's fine, when in reality, we might not be done yet. And it also can, it's only part of the picture is what I'm trying to say. So when you think about positive thinking, you're really only thinking about the outcome. You're not thinking about what could happen along the way. So if you don't think about the challenges ahead of time, you're not going to be prepared for them. And that's a problem. So if positive thinking isn't that secret weapon we want it to be, what is our secret weapon? Our secret weapon is mental contrasting. So mental contrasting brings a reality check into the whole picture. It has you imagine all the potential hurdles. What's going to get in the way? How is this work going to be hard? How am I going to trip myself up? You know, what's negative about what it is that I need to do? And it's all meant to make you look at the hard stuff so you can be prepared for the hard stuff and be prepared for the tough stuff. It's not meant to convince you can't do what you want to do. It's meant for you to have a nice full picture. So here's what they look like side by side. We've got positive thinking, we've got mental contrasting. In positive thinking, we're going to stick through the rest of this, we're going to stick with the goal of, I'm getting 10 new clients, right? We're building our business with new clients. So positive thinking, all you really focus on is, I'm getting 10 new clients. With mental contrasting, You say, I'm getting 10 new clients. I have to reach out to 100 prospects. I have to schedule multiple phone calls. I have to keep going and do this over and over and over every day, even when it gets tough, even when I feel rejected, even when I feel discouraged. So mental contrasting says there's some tough key components happening here. Positive thinking is really all about the destination. It's not about the journey. So it only considers the outcome, not how you're going to get there. Mental contrasting wants you to bring in solutions. It wants you to focus on action. Similarly, positive thinking only says, think some good thoughts. Mental contrasting says, you've got to implement some strategies. You've got to do some problem solving. Again, focusing on action, which is so important. Where they're exactly the same is they both ask you to really believe you can do what you say that you're going to do. So they both ask you to really believe, I'm going to get 10 new clients. Okay. Are there any questions on mental contrasting and the differences between that and positive thinking before we move on? Okay, I can't see the chat, I guess. So Felicia, just let me know if something pops up in the chat that I don't respond to.
Okay. There's nothing in chat yet.
Okay, that's good. All right, time to whoop it up. Whoop it up. So again, WOOP stands for wish, outcome, obstacles, and planning. So wish is the goal. This is the what. This is what I'm going to make happen. I'm going to get 10 new clients. I'm going to offer a new program. I'm going to invest in this new technology. I'm going to invest in office space at HAYVN so I can spread out. I'm going to build my team. It's whatever it is, you know, it's whatever you want to achieve. Outcome is what happens as a result. You know, so you've gotten 10 new clients. What happened as a result, and how did you feel about it? And we're going to go through each one of these one by one. Obstacles. Where does it get hard? What gets in the way? What are the roadblocks? What are the hurdles? How do you trip yourself up? And then the planning is, how do you plan ahead for things going wrong? Okay, so let's go through these one by one. The first one is the wish, the obstacle. So we're using the example of I'm going to get 10 new clients, but when you do this on your own, you can use as many wishes, as many goals as you want. You're going to want to go through this process, and it's a very simple process. You're going to want to go through this thoroughly for each one. So what I encourage you to do is, even if you have one specific one in mind, give yourself the space to think of all possibilities. So not just I'm going to get 10 new clients, but what else do you want to do? You know, do you want to double your income in 2021? Do you want to cut your expenses by 25%? Do you want to add 2 people to your team? You know, think about things like that. And it doesn't have to be only, we're focusing on your business here because we're talking about business, but it can also be personal. You can absolutely do this with personal stuff. And what I find that's really interesting is typically when you trip yourself up, so that the obstacles that have come up that come from within you, the way you do it in one place is probably how you do it in a lot of other places. So there can be some really great learning, no matter what kind of wish or goal that you're working on. You want to, once you have your list of your wishes, your goals, what you're going to work on, you want to set a priority. And this is just good business practice anyway, right? It's not just enough to know all the things that you want to do. You want to have them in a priority order. What are you doing now? What are you doing next? That's like my mantra. And I learned this when I cooked professionally in a restaurant. I always thought, like, what am I doing now? What am I doing next? Because there's so much swirling around you. It's easy to focus on what am I doing now? What am I doing next? So set a priority and work in priority order. Okay. Any questions on setting the goal, on setting the wish, identifying what that is? All right. The next thing is the outcome. What happens as a result of you getting your wish? What happens as a result of getting 10 new clients? Do you make more money? Well, hopefully, you make more money. Maybe those 10 clients, some of them bring in even more clients. Maybe maybe it really revitalizes your business. Maybe it really, helps you create more income and bring in more people, invest in new technology. The other thing that you want to do is also think about, how do you feel as a result of reaching that goal? Maybe you feel empowered. Maybe you feel grateful. Maybe you feel confident, a lot more confident than you were before. When we talk about goal setting in any context, I think it's really important and powerful to bring in the emotional aspect of it. So it's not just what am I doing and why am I doing it, but how do I feel about it? Because those emotions, that's what we really connect to. That's what we really feel in our bodies. And that's what helps move us forward. I also mentioned something important, which is the why, thinking about, why do I want to do this? So along this way, when you're thinking about what you want to do, make sure you think about why you want to do it. And working through the outcome step helps you with that. You can really identify, why is this important? Well, if I get 10 new clients, I don't have to worry about my business for the rest of the year. Or if I get 10 new clients, I can, take some time off and be with my family, whatever it is. Okay, I'm looking in chat. Okay, Virginia asks, you might get to this, but how do we make sure that we don't get stuck in the obstacles which can derail the process? That's an awesome question. I am going to get to that, absolutely. So, well, let me make sure I understand the question. So do you mean, how do you make sure we don't get stuck in this particular step and not move on? Or is it, we've moved on, but we're getting a little stuck?
Maybe both, actually.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. So when you think about identifying a goal, identifying a wish, we talk a lot about what we want to do and how we're going to get there, right? So I'm kind of backing up and talking about goal setting. A really important thing to do is understanding why it's so important. I think when you ask yourself why, that gives you the fuel to help you combat the the obstacles, including, in addition to everything else we're going to talk about here. When you are clear on why you want to do something, well, if it's really tied to something that's important to you, if you really identify with it, it's so much easier to get through the obstacles. Because if it's really important, tied to your values, tied to what you know is important for you and your business, you're going to make it happen, right? You're going to do what you need to do to make it happen. Okay, so let's see what happens when the obstacles come up. So we talked about identifying the wish. We talked about really being clear on the outcome. What happens as a result? What are the benefits? How do you feel about it? So those first two steps, those are the easier things to do. They feel good. We like to do that. Now we're going to get into the area that's harder. And it's the part that people like to skip or not think about, or it's like, I'm going to cross my fingers and hope that everything's going to be okay. So we're going to start with the obstacles. If you have a big enough thing that you're working towards that's important to you, I guarantee you there are going to be some obstacles. A lot of them might be external. People either getting in your way or not helping you, not having enough time. A lot of it is going to be internal, feeling discouraged if it doesn't happen as quickly as you want, feeling a lack of confidence, feeling like I can't do this, So let me ask you, when you think about the goal, okay, Scarlett, I see your thing, and I'm going to, if you don't mind, we can bring that up in a little bit. Maybe we can work through it. But thinking about the goal of, I'm going to get 10 new clients. I want you to just kind of brainstorm, what are some particular obstacles that can get in the way of that? Well, if you think about that for yourself, what can get in the way of getting 10 new clients? Absolutely nothing? That's awesome. We're done. Now, come on. What are some obstacles that could potentially happen? Could it take a really long time and be discouraging? Could you feel rejection when you've made 100 phone calls and you've gotten 2 clients? What else could happen? Okay, Pam, not making the calls. Okay, Pam, sorry, I'm jumping ahead. Pam, how to find them. So not knowing how to find your potential clients, not having the right messaging. Okay, so these are ways that getting new business is hard. Absolutely. Scarlett says, not actually making the calls, just waiting for them to call me. So sitting in your beautiful curated closet, waiting for people to come to you. Got it. Yep. Yeah, that's a lot more comfortable, right? And as humans, we really like to be comfortable. So I totally get that. All right. What are some other potential obstacles? What else can get in the way of getting new clients? COVID, sure. Right, the pandemic. For those of us on the East Coast, the blackout, losing power, right? There's a lot of outside stuff that can get in the way. Pam, you said not meeting your goals in the past. So having the, like this, the dark cloud of, yeah, well, you didn't do it before, so what makes you think you're going to do it now, right? Is that what you mean? Yeah, okay. So what I find really interesting is, oh, Scarlett, you said laundry. Okay. All right. Well, yeah, that's something too. What I find really interesting is most of the obstacles you guys identified are internal. And I find that to be the case. You know, COVID is not internal. Believing that you cannot grow your business during COVID, that's an internal obstacle you can deal with. Fixing COVID, you probably can't do unless, you know, you're a biologist, you know, unless you're an infectious disease doctor. So your response to COVID, that's a potential obstacle. Okay, so I'm going to keep those in mind because I want to make sure that we talk about planning for them. And I'm just looking at the clock. Okay, so what you want to do next is plan for these obstacles. You want to have a couple, 2 or 3 things that 2 or 3 action steps that you can do when these obstacles pop up. So when you think about, say, you're not making the phone calls. So Scarlett, that was something that you offered up. I'm not making the phone calls. I know I need to make 100 phone calls and I'm not making any of them. What are 2 or 3 things that you can do to get over that? Can you get an accountability partner and check in and say, okay, today I'm going to make 10 phone calls. And if I don't do that, I want you to yell at me. Can you write out a check to an organization that you absolutely 100% do not support? And if you don't make the right number of phone calls, you have to mail the check to them. Can you call a cheerleader, someone who really supports you, and say, like, I'm really struggling. Can you just help me get to this first one, right? There's a lot of different things that we can do. Thinking about, let's look at another obstacle. The specter of not meeting your goals in the past and feeling like history is going to repeat itself. What can you do with that? Again, you have had some success in your life. Can you tap into that and really bask in remembering when you knocked it out of the park, when you did something great, even if it was a completely different thing, remembering you've made things happen before. Can you do some baby steps, you know? So instead of, I kind of feel like when you think of not meeting your goals in the past, it feels really, really big, which can then make the, I've got to make 100 phone calls feel really big. What if it's, I'm going to make a phone call today. I'm just going to make a phone call and connect with somebody. You know, I'm just going to make this connection. And if it turns into a client, great. Otherwise, I've made, I've renewed a connection, I've made a new connection. So kind of shifting your focus on the action itself. What are you guys hearing here? I'd like to get a little feedback and see, what are you hearing in terms of how you can plan for your obstacles? What's making sense?
I'm hearing what resonated with me was most obstacles are internal, which is very true. And then also, I think what's important for me is to really plan for my personal obstacles, which are different from other people's. So really kind of know my patterns, and whether that means opening up social media and getting distracted, or reading the news and going down a rabbit hole. Like, that's something I have to be aware of and fight.
Great. Yeah, that's a really important point. You want to focus on your personal obstacles and plan for those. Not everything that could possibly go wrong, but the things that are going to be hard for you, that are going to be, ways that you're going to get in your own way. I was watching, there's a woman I follow on Instagram. I think she's in her late 70s, and she, like, when she was 70, she started training with her daughter, who's a personal trainer, and she's absolutely transformed her health. And really, she's so inspirational to me. I love seeing her. She's so in shape. She's so fit. And I was watching her do a workout the other day, and she was doing something that I cannot do, these crab walk things, and she was doing them really beautifully. I was like, oh, great, I'm getting smoked by an 80-year-old. But then there was something in there that I can easily do. And she's like, I hate these things. These are so hard. And I'm like, I can do those. I can do those. Okay, good. I'm feeling a little bit better here. So it's just another way of showing, like, we really need to focus on what's true for us, what's hard for us, what's true for us. And there are parts of it that are going to be easy for us and not a problem for us, that might be really hard and a problem for the person next to us, right? So it is very, very individual. Yeah, really good point. Anything else, anything else you're hearing here? Any questions that you have? Anything, you want to go a little bit deeper on? One thing that's helpful for me with the planning is thinking of it as an if-then kind of statement. Like, if this obstacle comes up, then I'm going to do this. So if this happens, this is what I'm going to do. And it really is it's so worth taking the time to do this up front, because then you have a lot more power. Like, before you can start to feel bad about it, you can say, oh, I've already thought of this. I thought this might happen. So let me go to my list and take a look at some of the action steps that I've listed out. To me, it feels a lot like if you're going to drive cross country, you're not going to just get in the car, turn it on, and just start driving. You're going to think, okay, at some point I'm going to get tired. I'm going to have to stop. So where am I going to stop? Let me find a couple of places I could stop. I'm going to run out of gas at some point. So where am I going to stop for gas? I'm going to get hungry. I'm going to get sick of the CDs that I brought. Like, what am I, do we still use CDs? Showing my age. But, you're going to think about all of those details so that your trip can be as successful as possible. Same thing with this. I want to get to this goal. I want 10 more clients. What do I need to be thinking about? What's going to go wrong? What could potentially happen? How do I respond to someone saying no, or someone saying something that sounds like no? How do I support myself? Do you do extra energy activation? Do you have extra pampering time for yourself to really support yourself? Do you give yourself the time to do the reading or the walks or the swimming or exercise or whatever it is that makes you feel more like yourself, so you can go out and keep making those calls? Okay. So this is a really, as you can see, WOOP is a really simple process. It doesn't mean it's easy, because as we have identified, most of our obstacles are internal, so that takes some work. But as you go through this, it becomes something that's easier and easier to do. So what I would do is encourage you to take a look, make a list of what are the goals that you want to achieve. What happens as a result? What do you get as a result of that? And how do you feel about that? And then do the tough work of what are the potential obstacles? How does it get hard? And how can I combat those? What are some action steps? So when you do this start to finish, what you'll start to see is all of the power is in those last two steps. The really hard stuff, that's where all the power is. When you find the obstacles before they find you, when you know what you're going to do with them before they find you, like you are so far ahead of the game that it's impossible to lose. It's impossible. Like you're just going to win, right? I wanted to mention, I've got another talk coming up, and I love that we really identified that there are some, it's mostly, you know, internal stuff coming up, because I'm trying to get to the next screen. Oh, hang on. I have a talk coming up called Sneaky Ways Entrepreneurs Sabotage Themselves and How to Stop Doing That. Oh, here we go. I want to put this link. It's totally free, you know, like all of our talks are now, but you need to sign up because it's in Zoom. So you have to sign up for all the Zoom stuff. So let me put the link in here in case you want to join me. This is next Thursday. We're going to take a look at some pretty universal ways that we trip ourselves up and how we can stop doing that. So we were kind of like going there a little bit here. We're going to spend the whole hour next week focusing on that. So if you can join me, that would be really, really great. Okay. Any other questions? Anything you feel like I needed to cover a little bit more? Anything I can tell you right now?
Lisa, I think this has been great. I've always felt that mantras all by themselves are not enough. Positive thinking isn't enough. It was the action part that that's always, you can't just think your way out of things. You have to actually get up off the couch and do something too. So I just appreciate the talk. Thanks.
Good, thank you. I'm glad you could join us. I'm glad that worked out.
Well, thank you, Lisa, for this. And I have a few tidbits that I'm going to take back to me. I know I work with you all the time on this, but it's always good to be reminded. I appreciate everybody coming today.
I do too. I want to make sure I say thank you for everybody making the time today. I know there are a million talks that you can be on Zoom talks all day. So thank you for being on this one today. I appreciate it.